morning. Probably not going to talk much this morning. Honestly, I'm pretty tired, but we're at a pretty big spot here, so just want to see how we react. We did talk about how big this 9.6 overhead was yesterday too, so I figured that they would stop there. That was the first. I'm pretty sure that's the 256 128 point range, is it not? We talked about this yesterday. It's a pretty big spot. If they take it out on the first attempt, then we could definitely expand. So I figured that they'll probably stall here. And I think this is from like these previous open closing ranges are off that 6.3, 6.8 spot. And I think that's the 256 point range. Yeah, it is. The 256 point range, guys, off that is 9575 or 9550 from this low. Can someone document this? This is the 256 point range. Sorry, I put it as an overhead, but I couldn't remember why it was an overhead, but that's why. That's why it's an overhead. 256 range. From the lows on August 1st, and pretty sure we didn't really have like too many flips that kind of ran through there, but let me see if I can remember. Like, I know this 22 day, today's the last trading day on this one, and that runs until the 14th. So, and that's the fourth bar. And let's take a look at our 33 day. I'm pretty sure the 39 and like 38, these ones kind of extended through the 12th. There isn't that many flips on the 13th. It's just a calculated flip, but I do know that like some of these smaller frames, and then there's extensions through the 18th and 22nd. And then we had this 7-day flag, if you guys remember. Do you remember this? This flips over tomorrow. So I think that's probably worth noting. But like more specifically from like these frames here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is the 7th bar and it runs through the 22nd. So I feel like we could definitely get continuation on that. On the 9-day, it's already moving over on the, oh, it is the 9-day flip. I couldn't remember what it was, but it was the 9-day. And I think those were the month-end extensions through the 22nd and the 26th. So it's definitely a big spot, and we did say that from our July 21st, I think it was, I can't remember. I think from July 21st. Yeah, I think these would be like the 128 point breaks right here overnight last night. These areas here, off like the 5.3, 5.7, like, you know, off of our big spots like 6.3. I don't know if you guys remember this, but these are the 132 point ranges as well, off our 6.3, 5.7 support, and then obviously off of like these multi-structural flips, like off core ranges like 6.8, 70. These dates here, specifically the 1st and the 4th, we're essentially hitting 128 points here. Does that make sense? So that's where these ranges come in from. So taking them out on the first attempt is pretty huge, because this means that they could extend this, that 3, 4, 6, Everyone on the same page in terms of this? So, and you can see that these areas all are in the bear zone, which makes sense because once you break these final ranges, like 9-8, I just need you guys to see this so that you can understand what I'm talking about here. Like once you break all these ranges, you can see that if they sweep this zone, then we can get a pretty nice move up to that 64.10. What's our next big overhead here? Above 9.6. This spot's super calculated. What's the next big overhead? I just want to show you guys how these are aligned. That 9.8, 9.875, 9.9 is basically the top range. And the way that they structured the 8th and 7th, especially the 7th, was made so that they could break into the neutral zone. What's the next big overhead here? Good morning, Michelle. Do you see what I'm saying? These are all structured to be within the bear zone, every single one of them. Okay, and if we get that 32-point range, that's when we can expand. What's the next big overhead, guys? It's not on my screen, by the way, but you guys should know this. What's the next big overhead? It's a pretty huge spot. We've talked about it for 3 weeks now, especially in this range here. That's why it was a buy the open. Like a zone open is a buy the open, okay? We held overnight, but I did buy some daily contracts off the open too, especially when they came back and held 8.5. What's the next big spot? I'm only gonna stream for like half an hour and then I'm shutting this off. So you guys are gonna be on your own today. Nope. That's way too high. The next big overhead in this area here that we've talked about for weeks, I'll give you guys a hint. We're not that far off from it. No. Give me the exact spot. Yeah, it's a spot we've talked about for several sessions now. It's not 65.10 is huge, but there is a spot just before that. Go back and read the reports. There's a lot of confluence from that area. What's that spot? Don't get it wrong. 65.04, exactly. That 037504-ish, that area. That's the, I'm pretty sure that's the 132-point range. Somewhere around there. I don't remember exactly, or it was the 346. All I know is it was a pretty massive spot that you guys should not be forgetting. Like, especially this, when this is being tested. I hate when this thing does that. I'm trying to grab that and I can't. There is a tiny bit of overhead at 0175, but I would expect it, like, when it clears 9.6, it goes directly to 03, okay? So we need to really watch what it does around that 03, 04. Good morning. But you guys can see these nice holds. These are basically 128-point breaks right here, okay? The final 128-point break from those open closing ranges was right at 9.9. Do you see that? That's a clear trade. Does that make sense? This is clearing 128-point intervals. So I would expect some volatility around here, like this spot here. And let me go back and see what, I'm trying to remember. Like, I know June 23rd we had, like, these were the wider structure breaks. Like off 05. And I just want to double check. Oh yeah, it's this range here. Oh, these are off of our 4-1, 3-8 spots is what they are. On those structural holds. That's what this area is. Okay. This O2. I want to mostly see what this does in this range here. This is where that 07, 06 comes into play. Everyone's on the same page. Like there's a lot of in between. Go back and read the report because all the visuals are in there, but this entire area is a pretty big range. Like it's once we kind of start triggering around like 65.20, 65.24, and then from like a wider range, or like a more micro range, like from this week's open, this is basically almost a 100-point move. Like right now we basically just broke an 80-point metric here, right? And you guys know from weekly ranges, like sometimes when you start hitting around 88 points, that so the 65.10 is 88 points from the week's open. From the weekly low, these areas here would be around 128 points, so there's going to be some overhead between 65, 16, 20. Do you see that? There's some confluence around that 19, 20 area, so that's where I'm thinking they're headed to today, with some odds of like 2-4, 3-1, 3-2. Getting to the channel, even though it isn't odd, I feel like it's going to depend on how they react in the zone. They might just have a zone day today. We'll have to see. The 13 does have the highest odds though, and it's a very calculated flip date. So if there is going to be a date where we get some good range, I would imagine it could be today. And then off these structures here, like you can kind of see that they basically set this up that we could get some bull tests like 6528. Do you guys see this? So I'm not going to be around this afternoon, so I'm trying to get you guys prepared for this, okay? What's the max range they could trigger today? Don't get this wrong. What's the max range that they could trigger today? A 6502 stall here with some pretty big volatility. I would imagine that that would be the case because that's kind of like trying to enter a new zone here. They fully took it down 6.75 points back to that 9496. We'll see if they hold. This is going to be a really big back test here, especially at this 9496 area. This is a, what did we say it was? 9525 or something, or 75? I can't remember. That's a 256-point range though. It's this whole range right here is a pretty big spot. And we'll see if they try to negate that. This overall reduction that they just reduced us by is probably to that 10 spot. Do you see that? Well, pretty close to 50, 6509, 50. So I know for a fact that 07, 08, 10, it's definitely going to be a bit of an overhead. Any news on that stick? We have to see where we're trading to before 10. That's generally super important. Today's Wednesday, right? We just have EIA at 10:30. I don't think we have anything else. Like we do have some Fed speakers this afternoon at 1:30, and a small auction this afternoon, but other than that, I didn't really see much else scheduled for today. So do you see how important it is that they'd have to negate off 9496? I'm only streaming the open. I don't usually stream the open just because I'm managing positions, but this is a pretty important open, especially with, like, most people are going to look at this as like the 6,500 overhead, right? So, and I told you guys before, like it's 6,500, but it's not. It's like just slightly above, you know, like around 02, 03, 04. There's a tiny bit of overhead there, especially in this range right here. So this whole neutral range had overhead, but the way that they cleared the bear zone was pretty impressive this morning. Also, overnight action, really nice. Conditions for last night was that they try holding 5.9 and 6.2. I think they did a pretty good job of holding around there. They tested 6.1. They did test that 7.4 almost immediately, which was nice. Came back, brought it around. And then I said we had best odds during London session to test 7.8. 7.981, which they did. Kind of see the London session kind of getting a nice break right here around 3-4 a.m. and then they stalled, I think, just beneath 8.5. 8.5 was like kind of final core area, but then consolidated above 7.8. Do you guys see this consolidation here? And then real time here, they opened in the zone, which is good. They opened at 64.89, 64.90. That's exactly 66 points from the weekly open. Okay, just FYI, this right here. And so they open in the zone, which is good because that implies that they want to keep it in the zone. The zone is this colorful box, okay? And they did hold 8.5, which is upper core. So I don't know, like odds are pretty good, but we do have to see where they flip this here off 9496 because that's a pretty big spot. Like if they want this to be the top for the week, they definitely could stall it here, right? If they want to continue extending and expanding, it definitely has to take out that 03, 04, 10 spot. Does that make sense? So we'll see what they do in like the next few minutes because this is a pretty important spot here. I'm not going to be able to trade this afternoon. I have to sign off by like noon my time. And I'm not surprised that they reduced it by that many points because it makes sense that they would try taking it back to this 9496 area. So far this looks a little bit bearish off that reversal, especially on like a 3-minute. We'll see if they can try to sustain within the small frames. Otherwise, even the 4 minutes kind of setting up for a nasty reversal here this morning. We'll see if they can turn it back around. These ones here could be a nice like reversal back up, but they'd have to immediately negate. They can't afford to stall this kind of area here. This was also a 4th bar stall, I noticed in here, and they could just give like a nice star type reversal. But that being said, they'd have to hold that 9496. So basically they'd have to negate the risk between like 10.03, 04 to avoid these from getting continuation down, because this is a valid bear flag right here. One, two, three, four. What do you guys think? You think that they negate this quickly? So to negate this quickly, this would have to probably come back at least over this box range, which makes sense that it's like between, I'm not surprised that they form this around 9496. That makes total sense. And this wick being 9875 because that's the top of the bear zone. What time is it? What do you guys think? Pretty big spot. Because if they want to sell it off here, they definitely can. I don't think market owes us much more than that. If they want to try holding the line, then they'd have to quickly try bringing this range back. Otherwise, this could be in a continuation on downside. And usually, like, these smaller bear flags sell off pretty quickly. So I'd say to negate this, they'd have to retract back at least over 9.4, try to flip this back, maybe make like a flag-like formation by like that 04 mark, which, what time is it? Only 30 seconds from here to try to negate this. So a negation would look something like this. Okay, continuation would look more like this, which is where things could get really ugly, because they could take it all the way back to these overnight ranges if they wanted to. So the way that they close that, that's still valid. That's still valid because it didn't get back over 9.495. There are some bull odds to try to sustain though around 06. That would be more of like these star-like formations forming. Like, you guys have no thoughts? Not a single thought on what they might do here? Okay. I'm thinking that they don't give the full range. Like, I feel like they'll star this. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this is valid, but I feel like they might try to reverse it early. We'll know within the next, like, 2 minutes, especially off 06 and 08. Like, because some of these wider patterns, like this one, do you see that? Like, they could easily, it's kind of hard to see like this, but they're actually required to take out the low in order for this to get like a nice, but they definitely need it back over like 9.5, 9.6 for that to be the case. Like, that's how they could end up doing a star-like reversal like this. That is what I'm thinking they're gonna do, but it's gonna be relative to them holding and retracing, especially at 06. So this 05 stick is really good because that's basically them forming that star-like formation because they did it ahead of 06. Does that make sense? But this is like that's why I highlighted them in green. I hope that helped. So this has to basically be like the attempt to try to retrace. Does that make sense, guys? Can someone document the 06 stick? Maybe just watch some of the ones too that never really went red. Also, this 12-minute could also bullish engulf if they do that, which means they could retest that high as early as 10-11. 13-minute also could engulf, and this kind of flagged up for 10-15. So it's kind of like it can negate, but they'd have to quickly turn this around, okay? Which means you'd have to have really good strength at 05, 06, 07, 08. Got it? If they don't engulf and they kind of stall here, these time frames are setting up a little bit for maybe some flags after 10, 12. And this makes sense. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's some exhaustion. 09. So kind of a tricky spot because it's basically the battle between the neutral zone and the bear zone right here. And I feel like these frames here between like 09 and 12 would probably determine this trend. And it's because the 4-minute's still valid. That's the shitty part, because this runs until 10, 12. That's pretty cool though to see our levels play out in real time and how they form bear structures around our big overheads. That's pretty cool, especially since those are the 256 point ranges. Okay, hold the line at 6488, 64, 90, and retest 6503, 6504 overhead. I'll give you guys 2 minutes to vote on that. Try to vote quickly though. MSOS actually made a good comeback. I don't know if some of you guys were trading this, but it opened up right at that annual range today. TLRY, I'm still swinging. I did cover half yesterday on that one, but where's my template on that? 109 is the overhead. That's kind of where they stalled last time. Looking for that 114 retest, like a better clearance this time of this area here. Take it to there. More votes than that, guys. These are annual ranges, FYI. This is a huge area for the market. Okay, these are spots that if they want to sell us down, like 1,300 points, they can. And this is a huge, huge spot for the year. So voting for this range here is not a joke. This is I wouldn't stream the open if this was a small area. This is a pretty big spot in general. This is one of my annual targets and my Q2 target. So this is a pretty big spot to stall if they stall here. Oh wow. Yeah, but do you see what they're doing off like 08, 09? They're like barely holding the line at like 94, 94.50. Like I said, I think that 12 mark would likely determine this. So see where they take this back to off 11. Because so far this hasn't taken out that low. If it's going to take out that low and can get expansions on that 4th bar range, it would have to do it within like the next minute. So far this is still valid. Yeah, see, that's still valid. Look at that drop. And right at the 11 mark too. So I was looking for a 64.88, 64.90 retest, which is basically like going back to opening range. And from there, we'll see if they want to expand this downside or if they actually are going to try to hold the line here. I actually missed the majority vote. Majority voted yes. Uh-oh. That's a 13-point hold here off open. If they try to hold, if they expand this, that's where this can get pretty messy, and they could come back and retest this 8.5 So 12 is the point in time that they can try to turn this around, but so far I think a lot of these structures got ruined. They definitely did, which means something like this might kind of delay through 10:30. Like even something like this. Or like this. 10:26, 10:28. Oh, this is linked with the 9:50 highs too. 09:28. How important is it that this fourth bar range here starts to show signs of exhaustion, you think, on this 4-minute? Pretty huge to avoid like a massive sell-off. Because if they want to continue this all morning to like 10:30, they definitely can. Do we want to try keeping this in the zone? Kind of see some new formations here too. Yeah, like these are the ones I was watching earlier to see. We're gonna watch around 10:26, 28. What time is it? 10:14? This might be interesting too to see how much of this they can negate at 14, just to avoid, because this one technically is still holding structure. What's half this range back to like 9.3, 9.4, 9.6? Same idea. If they're gonna try to hold, they'd have to get back over that 9.6. That would make sense that that's half the range. I feel like this is still setting up for this. This runs till 16, so at least it is green, but that definitely needs to be a little bit stronger here to avoid seeing another 3 bars down. I don't really think that that's shown any strength yet. You can also see that they're trying, like, off the final seconds. Is this still within range, guys? And girls? Yes, okay, and I'd say 10:16 to 10:20, pretty important time here to try, like, holding. The 16 stick was decent, because there are odds around 10:26, 10:28, 10:30 to turn this around, but I think the period between like 16 and 20, I can't remember what that 20-minute flip was, but it was in correlation to the high of day, so was that 10:28. And there's some decent looking structures that they could try to reverse back and negate. This one here, I think it was off the 20-minute. Because then otherwise you can kind of see how this would still be at major risk of coming right back to that 8.5. You can also see how this is aligned so nicely with like 9.94, 9.6. Right, it needs to get back in this area here to avoid that major risk, which makes sense because that's our 256 point ranges. All right, so if that's what that 20-minute looks like, then we probably have some wider ranged formations setting up, like this for instance. Let's see, 25-minute. 25-minute, that's aligned with that high of day. That runs through 1040. Most of these will probably be extended past like 1028, 1030, just to give it more time. This one here is not bad, because that includes the 950 and 51, and it's stuck in an inside bar till 1020. So lots of multi-flips at 1020. Maybe that could be the first retest of 9293, or at least the point in the day that's going to give us an idea if they're going to actually try holding here. This doesn't look bad either. That's also aligned with that 1026. So 26, 20, 28, those are definitely going to be some important points here in the day. This is also aligned with high of day off the 38-minute at 1050, and that's 1028. So 1020 is probably the midpoint here. And we'll see if they hold that 64, 90, 50 break. That's the 66 point break off weekly open. Like 66, 68 point break is between this area here. Okay. That's why it's, I don't have 9.2 marked on here, but that's why that's stalling there a little bit. Not the best strength so far down here, but at least it's trying to hold the line. We'll see if they get some decent follow-through sticks here. That 3 minutes starting to flag a little bit, which flips at 21, so that could be like the follow-through stick. 2, 4. We could probably use this as like an intermediate. So wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that would make sense because the 7th bar on this 4 minute would be between 1024 and 1028. So if they really wanted to start showing exhaustion, they would have to do it during that period. Otherwise, that's where they could extend this. So far, this doesn't look like it's exhausting though. This is still looking pretty weak. I could tell even off that 1020 stick that didn't really look like it wanted to hold. Hence the 21 follow through on the downside. I'd say you needed at least 9250 on this stick to sustain. Like even though there's still odds that they can bring this back during this period, so far it's not acting super strong. See if the 21 can get back to 92 or 90.50, sorry. Where do they open today? 89.5. It's a different color. They're getting close on time. Not much time left for them to try holding this here. Best case scenario would be for them to hold right here and try to retract back at least to this area here. They technically have until like 1040 1045, 11 to retest this high range here, but bringing it back to 9496 is so important to like mitigate risk, because otherwise they can take it all the way back. They don't owe us anything above these ranges here. That's where we'd have like a bigger reversal on the session today. And that could start setting up for like a star-like reversal maybe. Sometimes that happens too when they open just slightly lower. Thanks. I really do want them to hold though. I don't want them to give up the zone. You know what I mean? Especially on the 13th. Like, I definitely would prefer us to stay in the zone today, because we worked so hard to get to these ranges. Like, failing 8-8 would, like, especially today, installing like here, that would just suck. Look at that stick drop. I could just see this happening though, just based on the fact that 10-20 didn't hold. Look at 1, 2, 3, 4 sticks down in a row. And that's the continuation on this. This is the 7th bar. So if they really want to expand downside, they would do it between 1024, 1028, which is exactly what they're doing, unfortunately. Not at these ranges. This isn't a spot that you want to stall for the market. Not here. Anywhere else, yeah. Here, no. That's not healthy. That could give you a 1,300 point reversal from these ranges. These are annual ranges. Well, it can, but probably after this range here. This is in a durational downside till at least that 28, 26 period. Plus it already took out the zone, like in a single stick off 10-2-4, which is that 7th bar, which is usually exhaustion or expansion. If they're going to turn it around, it's going to have to be off these ranges. We said that they could take this back to 7-8. That's what I said at the beginning of the stream. If they don't retrace this during this period, which they didn't. Also, it's a pretty decent short setup off that 650102 when they stalled. Like, even to take it back down here, try not to be just one directional on this. I took a short hedge against my long position that I held overnight. It's only the first hour of the day too, so let's keep that in mind. But if they want to expand downside, it's definitely during this period. We've got, see, look at the 2-6 tick. Again, look at that. Like, that's exactly what I would expect during this period, especially with them stalling and not retracing 9496. It was that 10-20 stick, just the way that it didn't retrace back in 10-21 follow through, plus that 24, because these are, I know these are green, but these should be red, because these are this is the expansion on the short here. And we said 2-8 had the highest odds of like trying. I'll leave that yellow and I'll leave these green. So you could try a long down here if you want. I just covered half that short just in case they try to reverse this, because they could definitely hold the line around 8182 if they don't want to push this all the way down. and try to retract this off that 7th bar. But the range is between 32 and 28 are so important because this is what's going to give us an idea if they actually want to hold here or keep this heading on the downside. So far it hasn't really stuck. Like there hasn't been any like strong holds. $8,150 being tested on that stick. How many points is 33 points? This is a 22-point range here. So yeah, that 80-81 is definitely huge. They could basically take it back to OR. I would imagine that this spot here is like 32, 33 points is probably back to where they closed yesterday. Yeah, it is. Do you see that? And 6.8, that's a 34-point break. That's back to yesterday's close and today's open. That makes total sense. So they have a slight odd of trying to hold a 22-point range here and avoid heading back to opening range, but so far they're still stalling this. Like this hasn't shown any signs of retracements. Oh, they're still holding 10, 12 points off open. Like this is a really good example of a 3-bar continuation down, even off the 5-minute. Because usually on these you can get up to 12 bars, 11 bars. I think this is 8, 9, 10 until it tries to exhaust. And we said that if they don't hold the line around 10:30, this could keep going to like 10:40, which is exactly what it's doing. They're retesting yesterday's opening range. Just be careful. There's odds that they could hold in between, which would be a hold off opening range. That's around like 7.2, 7.4, 7.6. If they really don't want to retract all the way back a 34-point range from yesterday's close and today's open. But they'd have to have really strong strength around this 3-2 flip here. Otherwise, there's those odds to continue through 3-6 and 40. Where do they stall so far? 8-1, 7-8. They hit 7-8. 7-8 is where I thought they might try holding. That was my initial short target, because that's I'm pretty sure, like a hold of opening range. Good morning. But so far, they just haven't really had any luck with these retracements. Down here, in order for this to sustain, I would say that they definitely have to get back over like 8.8 and OR by that 36 window to avoid continued downside by 1040. If they really want to avoid this heading down to like previous opening ranges and potentially bearish engulfing on the session today, because we could do that, they definitely would have to hold the line. Because a full retracement back from here, if they fail opening range, could take us back to the channel, which is what we wanted to avoid, 6.4, 3.6, 3.7. And I'm not going to be here this afternoon either. What was the lows from yesterday? 6.396. Yeah, it triggered exactly where I thought they might hold it. 7.8 is kind of a weird spot because it's like, it's an area where it could still go lower. Does that make sense? but it's an area that is enough that if it holds there, they can try to retract this back up. Does that make sense? Like it's below 8.8, but it's still above 6.8. It's kind of like right in between, which is why I thought there's a chance they could hold 7.8. So far I was on the money with that, but it's definitely a tricky spot. It just kind of puts a lot of pressure, and the shitty part is this extension is pretty wide, like 1103, 1106, like that. We have a pretty long period here, and they could basically just kind of keep it stuck in this range unless they immediately retrace it. Does that make sense? So like they'd have to like rip it right back up, which might be kind of hard for them to do. Like for instance on like this could easily star, but that doesn't flip till 1106. So the only other option is if they want to hold here but they don't consolidate, they'd have to immediately try retracing this before 11, which means they'd have to get to work. But so far they haven't really shown that. They've just shown that they're stuck in this doji, which is usually back and forth sideways action like this at lows. I do want to see what they do off 1040 though, because this can give us a sign of what they might want to do with these ranges. Because I'm thinking if they hold here, okay, that's 24 points, so it's still beneath 22 points. And usually when you trade 24, 26, 29, it's the worst price action. So, and we obviously know that we can go all the way back to yesterday's open close, plus maybe further if they don't hold. But if they hold the line here, let's say, hold on, that could still keep that window open to get us to like 65.10. Do you see what I'm saying? 65.14. A 44 point hold off these lows could be like 64, 65.20, 22. So holding here still can give odds of 65.08, 10, 14, 16, whatever. It's kind of like it saves some of that mid-range. But so far they haven't really done a good job holding here. We'll see what they do. I really don't want them to fully give it up though. Like if they want to take it back to core ranges, I don't care, but I definitely don't want them to fully retrace back all of yesterday's range. You know what I mean? Like that would, especially for August 13th, like that's not good for structure. So we'll see what they end up doing here. I hate streaming in the morning, by the way, especially when I have open positions. I feel like the market moves so much faster in the first hour. It's so distracting. Even though I know you guys love opening streams, I hate them, by the way. I don't like them. I'm not really a morning person. It is, and also it's hard to manage positions in stream, especially like the first hour, because like things move a bit faster. If I didn't have an overnight long, I definitely wouldn't have streamed the open. I had one and it did literally nothing. Still getting those reversals. I could tell just off the 1039 weakness. Like I said, if they like 1039, 1040, especially out of this flip, like this doesn't look like this was sustaining anything. This, and the shitty thing is this is still stuck until 1106. It doesn't even have to do anything. Yeah, it's just too important of an open today. It's a one-off, which is fine. So they could do something like this, kind of keep it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, maybe take it back to this range here at this time. 7-8 triggered here, guys. That's the spot that I was thinking they might want to tag. I think they hit exactly 7-8. It's not really a confined spot, okay? So don't look at it as like a massive support. It's not. It's just a calculated area that if they want to try holding the line, they'd probably do it around this area here, like between 7.4 and 7.8. It's like a mid-range support, okay? That can, you're basically playing between both sides here, because you need this back over, 8.8, 8.9, okay? Because otherwise you're at risk of going back to 7.8. So let's say if you need this back in the zone, correct? That's a 10-point move. If they continue this, a 10-point move, you go back to 6.8. Do you see what I'm saying? So this is like these are kind of difficult to trade because it's like a mid-range. A lot of people get screwed over trading spots like this, okay? They're very hard to tag too, because it kind of keeps a battle on both sides open, okay? I'd say the cutoff for this to retrace is definitely this 11.05.06 window. That's what makes sense to me. So I guess maybe I'll shut the stream off then. So could you try a long off 7.8? And also, if they start showing some signs of strength, like I said, they could technically try to pierce this or engulf it. A piercing candle would be like them taking this back green or something, like halfway, maybe back to 9.4 or something. A full engulfing candle would be them completely retracting range, but that would have to occur before 11.06. I don't think that that's possible unless we had some crazy news or something. I don't really think that that's the case. Or they just kind of keep it back and forth sideways, and then they could retract it back between 11.06 and like 11.44, like basically between 11 through 12. There could be some odds to retrace back, but it would definitely have to be off this kind of area here, because this is a calculated 50% risk range between where we need to retrace back to and where we're still at risk of back testing. Are some of you guys prepared this morning if they stalled? So we're fine taking this to core areas. We just don't really want this to go back to the means, because that's where volatility would be implied. That's where they could take it right back to the channel, maybe back to the previous zone, which basically takes us back to weekly lows. It's a pretty huge short continuation if they don't hold the line. 7.8 so far taken out here. I feel like I think that's 12 points now. Yeah, it is. So I figured maybe around this 7.8 to 7.6 range they could try holding. 7.4 maybe even. It's just too much time. Could this be an area, guys, that they try sweeping the lows here if they really don't want to take a risk back to a 34-point break and back to yesterday's opening closing ranges? It's usually 26 to 29 point intervals are the worst to trade. So anything that's above 22 but beneath 32. Does that make sense? It's kind of like the 10-point range. If you think about that mentally, you'll always remember this, okay? It's usually when they trade ranges like that, it's because they know that they have about 10 points left on each side. Does that make sense? And it's almost always within like a 24, 26, 29 point range. They're like the worst spots to trade. The best thing for the market here would be if they could try sweeping it, but the issue is we still have too much time left. So maybe I think the midpoint is coming up here. This was the midpoint actually at 4.8. Oh, I think I unpublished that one. I think I have to save it and edit it. And I think it was because I was switching screens and it hit one of my order screens, and I think it showed my account number or something like that, and it wasn't blocked, like my full account number. So it was like, yeah, I need to unpublish that. I think that was it. So I might have to save it and then edit it, but I don't know how to edit it on Twitch. Yeah, it wasn't a huge deal, and I don't really know if anyone can do anything with that information, but it's still better to be safe. Oh, that. I don't know how to stop that. I don't know if I have to pay for an extra subscription or what it is, but it's only storing for like 2 weeks. But I still have all those videos. I can download them and upload them to YouTube or something. But the issue with that is like, how would I know who's subscribed to Twitch and who isn't? So, I don't know how to bring those back. Maybe one of you guys can look into that for me. Because, yeah, it's only showing a few weeks of recordings. I'd probably have to ask someone that's been streaming on Twitch a lot longer than me. This isn't going to be a generic 13-point, 12-point stall, by the way. That's what I'm trying to explain. They're working between midpoints. Midpoints are usually off setting ranges. Like 14 points makes sense, 15 makes sense. It's not going to be standard. Usually they're the hardest trades. And they usually occur at like an all-time high. Almost always. So what's the furthest date you guys can see back on Twitch for recordings? So by the way, if we want this one to star, because it's clearly not going to, like, I didn't think it would fully negate. It definitely didn't seem like the case. We probably want it maybe back to like 8-1, 8-2. I don't think it fully has to come all the way back, but definitely above these ranges here. It has about like 10 minutes to do that. We do have an, I thought we had an auction or something at 11. We had something. Hold on. Today's Wednesday. Oh, we have Treasury buyback. Okay, yeah, so it only posts 2 weeks. I'll look into that tonight to see why Twitch only lets you store 2 weeks. If it's just something that I have to pay for every month, then I'll just subscribe. But I don't think that that's the case. I feel like that's just how Twitch is set up. I still have access to all of them though. Yeah, I thought I changed the setting though so that it saves, but oh, yeah, I'm not sure honestly. No, it's okay. Well, no, at this spot here, I mean, it's whatever. It's more of like the highs, like, I entered short a little bit late, but it was still decent. I just want to see how much they retrace. Like, I feel like if they really want to try to star this, they'd have to get back at least over like 8-1, 8-2. We don't want it too high though, because too high would not be good, because that could make a bear flag. So let's see what this would look like. Like probably back to like, I'd say above the wick would be good. So like above this 8-2 maybe would be good. And but beneath 8-5. So I don't know, like maybe around 8. 8.2, 8.3 would not be a bad spot before here. Unless they give like massive sticks, which I just don't really see them doing. Because otherwise this is going to be a continued risk. And this could set us up for those bigger bear flags that I was talking about. If they retracted back 34 points or 33 points from here, where would that take us to? Is it around that 07, 08? Yeah, it is. So basically them holding here does limit odds a little bit for extensions, but and it keeps us stuck in the neutral box, like the yellow-orange range, but it would definitely help in terms of trying to sustain the downside. Oh, TLRY is crossing 110. Yeah, but then I feel like uploading them to YouTube defeats the whole purpose of like subs having access. I mean, I guess immediate access for 2 weeks is good because I probably would not be uploading them on like a day-to-day basis or something. Twitch partner. 60 days I feel like is good though. Well, I need more views to be a partner. I'm like shy like 5 views every single day for some reason. I don't know if they intentionally do that though. What do you guys think here? You think that they're gonna try retracting this, or you think they're gonna keep this downside at risk? Majority of you voted yes earlier that they would hold, and that really screwed us up. I figured that that would be the case. I feel like they have a decent chance here, but they probably need at least back over, like I said, at least 8-2. Like getting back to here would be good, because then we set up pretty nicely to get the range back up. And that would be the only way I think I could see them holding here. Trump speaks at 11:15. Well, maybe that's the volatility we need post 11:05. So far not looking too great for the retracements before 11:06. Short bias, Alexis, why? Just in general, or? For what reason? So far, none of these have any sort of like solid base. They're probably going to keep this stuck around these ranges until maybe Trump gets on. They're cutting it pretty close here though at 7.4. Yeah, they're basically trading like just above 32, 34 points just before this 11.15 mark. So, I mean, this is definitely a calculated way to trade this, especially since they did not retract this back to like 8.2, 8.3, 8.4 right here. They're still keeping this risk in play, which is 34 points is right back to today's open, by the way. Like, that's not a coincidence that they did that from this high. That's extremely calculated that they would do something like that. And that's definitely the risk that we're facing here, and obviously much bigger risk. It can go way lower than that if they don't hold. But they're still trying to keep a mid-risk. Dunks, you're funny. You ask if it could go there as if it's not like 3 points away from there. It's not that big of a range from here. Like what? My concern is not if it goes to 6.9 or 6.8, it's if it fails that range. Because that's where it could go all the way back to like 63.30s and maybe weekly low. Like 64.30s, sorry. Like that's the bigger concern. I don't really care if it goes back to opening range. Yeah, it definitely could. Anything could happen. I think it's kind of relative to them maybe holding like midpoints in between though. This is the 29-point ratio. Like, and I think we said 17 points off open is where we'd start to really monitor ranges here, which is I think close to 7.2. But again, like I said, if they hold around these ranges here, I feel like you're not listening. They could still bring it back to this area here, which is like taking it back to the neutral box. Just try to pay closer attention. Because I'm not going to be streaming this afternoon. I'm shutting the stream off in like the next 15-20 minutes. These are midpoint ranges, okay? Taking a trade off these ranges is risky, but it's a midpoint risk. I don't know how else to explain it. There's really no other way to explain it. That's why entering today, I went long overnight because I knew it could be a sell to open. And then, especially off these areas here, and did a short, but you could definitely take some trades between like 7.1, 7.2, 7.4, 7.5, 7.6, 7.8, whatever. This area, this entire core area here could set up for a good spot. It's basically above this range here and could still take out this range here. But it is a risky trade, so it's up to you if you want to take that. Like, I can't tell you what to take, what not to take, but I'm just telling you the trade that I'm seeing would be a mid-risk trade in this area here, right? But there's obviously risk of 6.8, 6.9, because that's 34 points from highs, which is back to yesterday's open, and yesterday's close and today's open, which could obviously take us a lot lower. But usually mid-risk trades are supposed to feel super risky because there's a slight odd that they could hold a line. They're not easy trade setups. So definitely not an easy session for sure. I'm not really sure what else to say. Okay, guys, I'm going to end the stream, I think, and just focus a little bit. We'll see what they do here in the next, like, few minutes. Again, like, if you want to take the trade in the 70s, maybe just put some tight stops. If you want to hold off and wait to see what they do around 6.8, 6.9. I feel like if they're going to take it back to 6.8, 6.9, 6.6, like this area here, especially these calculated ranges, then it's already implying too much risk where they could just take this a lot lower. Do you know what I mean? Especially based on that daily structure. So I feel like holding the line in the 70s is better, but we'll see what they do over the next 10 minutes. Good luck today. We technically hit enough range to be considered a max range. 65.03.04 is still going to be a big overhead along with that 07.10 range. I'm not really sure if, even if they hold here, I guess holding core, they could get it to core, which is like the 65.21.24 area, but those odds are likely off the table, even if they hold. Downside range, if they fail here, there's definitely odds of going back to like 64.52, 57, Basically same support ranges from yesterday and then odds of the channel. I feel like channel odds would make the most sense if they failed this area here. I'm not really sure they take it all the way back to the zone. They might want to save range over a 2-day period, but I would prefer that they try holding these 70s, ideally to avoid